Hi and welcome. Today we are jumping into our lecture right away is what is environmental stewardship? So without further ado, we're just going to jump right in and look at what the definition of being a steward is. What is stewardship? And it is the job of supervising or taking care of something such as an organization or property. Responsible stewardship of our public lands would be an example, and that is actually kind of what we're talking about today. So that actually fits perfect. But stewardship is something that can obviously be applicable to pretty much anything in life that you are supervising in or taking care of something. So the environment is no exception. And it is not just it's not just a role, it kind of is something that is applicable throughout your life. Whatever you're doing, you are and can be a steward of your own environment. And of course, that's going to fluctuate depending on, where you live, where you work, what you're doing that day, where you visit, where you go. Life is dynamic like that, where your environment is going to change. We're going to start off with professional wildlife management. It is a career for a lot of people to um, take care of, maintain our public lands, our wild spaces. I have worked with individuals who are primary caregivers in wildlife environs, who do take care of these spaces. So I am a little familiar with the tools that they use sometimes, and so it's actually very, very cool. And I did want to share this with you. The mapping systems that they have and modern technology, they actually come in very, very handy when you are maintaining, managing wildlife areas, public land spaces, and so obviously they may have their own specific private tech that they use, but it's a great way that you can keep tabs on what is going on in a specific space. So, and technology is phenomenal for that. So mnatlas.org is kind of a cool example, and it is public. So I'm going to just get out of this presentation for a second. This is the website, mnatlas.org. It's run by the University of Minnesota Duluth here, it looks like. And so it's very cool. It's a great resource if you are interested in these things. It's a Minnesota Natural Resource Atlas. Um, so I am from Stearns County. So I will just click in here. So that is that. Active layers. It's a great resource because you can look at all sorts of different natural resource elements from this map. So if you just want to scroll down this, you can see that there are unique things. I know when I was helping in my natural resource role, I did some work with native plant communities, parks and trails. So we can add that filter on, which is pretty cool. And I was also working with invasive species terrestrial. So I will highlight those layers for the map. Then we just close out, and you can kind of see this is the entirety of Minnesota. And this is an example. A lot of folks have like the GIS systems, and it's great because you can see the invasive species here: alfalfa, alpine knapwood, Alice clover, American red raspberry, emmer maple. We did have a number of those. We didn't actually treat those ones when we were out, but there's a whole list, and you can see just going down. I know we did pull some knapweed, perhaps not this specific kind, um, but it is very cool to see. Let's see. I'll just click down here, see if I can zoom in. There's a zoom on the side. But a lot of programs will have this technology where they know exactly where plants are, just by pulling up their maps. They can say, "Oh, we had this invasive species in this area. Let's run around and we can go ahead and treat it like this. Let's see, this is a blue. Hmm, I don't know if we're gonna find it, but uh, let's see, what color is that? That looks like it's probably burdock over here, maybe. Um, invasive species terrestrial, and then it has the location down here, elevation. So it looks like that could be burdock. They are invasive. They are hard to eradicate. They've got deep roots. So they are tough to get rid of. Um, but it's just cool. This is what natural resource managers will have available to them, and this is available to the public. So you can kind of see there are also apps for your phone where you can actually report. And I don't have this pulled up on the screen. I apologize for that. But there are apps for your phone that you can, in fact, report invasive species that you come across when you're out at the different parks and things like that. So it's a community-oriented report system. Like this is actually like looking at what this is. It's a little sparse. I know we were going for invasives and we um, you know, we formed a grid and we followed the map and we found them on the map and we took care of ones that maybe came about because it had been a few years since the map had been looked at and treated. And so seeds probably begot seeds, and obviously the invasives are going to spread. So taking out all of those, maybe reporting new areas, or the technology also marks, you can say, this is the section that we gridded and we treated. So some of those areas may have been treated 3 years ago. You can still kind of check and see if those are still around or if they are gone. So technology is actually really, really great for things of that nature. It's amazing what we can share and what we can accomplish when we work together. So it's pretty cool. Professional wildlife management, we have technology to help us um, figure out what we have and what needs to be done. So this is kind of a list of responsibilities that I saw with the people I was working with. Treating invasive species, planting in sparse or eroding areas. Some lands were donated or were purchased, and we were like one area was a farmland and they wanted to plant trees and make it forest again. So we did some planting of trees there. And so they're just going to have those areas where they try to rebuild the ecosystem for our wildlife, and it's pretty cool. Prescribed burns, some plants thrive and need that fire to kind of clear things out and replenish the soils. Certain conifers will only open up, the cones will only open up when they're hot, as if they are in a fire. So they actually need fire to continue their existence. So it's great. Monitor chemical usage. There is actually a specific um, a certification for like invasive species. And a chemical will also be used in agriculture as well. But for invasive species, they will use specific chemicals to treat things. And you just want to make sure that you're doing it safely, that things aren't going to be caught in the wind and blown out of your target area, and that you are wearing the proper PPE, you are being safe, you are not going to be endangering anyone in the local environment. So there is a specific certification for that to manage chemicals for those treatments, bug treatments, and things like that. So collecting seeds. That is was very cool to see. I got to participate in that as well, and they actually do have volunteer events where they will take folks and say, "Hey, we're collecting seeds for these specific wildlife plants. Please come participate. Just grab a paper bag and go to town." And it's fun. It's social. It's good for the environment. So it's great to see people participate in those things. But I think it's often taken for granted, those seeds, they have to come from somewhere. And so um, our wildlife management teams and actually go out and collect those by hand. We were out, doing whatever, and they said, "Hey, if you happen to see any acorns, any viable seeds from oak trees, pick them up, bring them in." So, so, um, so, the seeds are hand picked, and in the wild as well as nurseries too, of course. But it is phenomenal, what people do to collect those seeds, to perpetuate our ecosystems and to conserve and kind of maybe birth in areas where they were not before. So super, super cool. And actually it can be a lot of fun. So but it's a big job. Maintaining public trails and woodlands. A lot of the hiking trails, they might have hazard trees that are leaning dangerously, and or like poison ivy by the walking path. And so it's the professional wildlife manager's job to ensure that users are safe and comfortable, and want to return. And so and this is just barely even brushing the surface, I'm sure, but lots of responsibilities for professional wildlife managers. And I argued that the goal is to maintain sustainable ecosystems and healthy biodiversity, pairing those with educational and training opportunities. They've got the GIS, they've got the mapping technology, and so I do believe that they pair with like the University of Minnesota, and the Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa to work together and kind of teach people what the invasives are. I know I didn't know anything about that stuff, and I served for a year, and I learned so much just in that short period of time, because they had the systems in place to teach people and to train them on what to do in those environments. So not only are they maintaining the world, the environment, they are teaching people how to do it for future generations. So, but from there, after you have the professional environments, what do you do for personal environmental stewardship? Because ecosystems do go beyond wildlands and public lands. So, what can we do on a personal level? um, Environmental initiatives in popular culture. You will see these initiatives around, and this is kind of it's one of those things. How do you translate the natural environment over to your everyday life? I mean, if you have a 9 to 5, if you do work, if you're busy, if you got your family, and how often are you going to walk through the park, or spend a good deal of time out in the environment, maybe a camping trip here or there, and things like that. But how can you uh, integrate stewardship into your daily life for the environment? And so it's not just native plants and native wildlands. It's the ecosystem is bigger than that, and they are not separate. It's not we have the wildlands over here, and we've got um our human space over here, you will see deer out in the in the our neighborhoods, and I think we saw bears for, which was something special. But there is no like wall per se that separates those. So butterflies, we need our pollinators around, and so it's good to have those sustainable ecosystems so they're not trapped, or they have that highway to go, like some of our butterflies do overwinter down south. And so making sure that there are flowers and safe places for them to rest on their travels down south um, there are things to take into consideration. Different birds and obviously do the same thing. And so um, so it's not going to be natural environments the whole way. And, obviously you have, ducks around, geese, and, turtles will find their way into weird places. And so, there is no separate environment. Squirrels are everywhere, bunnies are everywhere. So, but what can you do to be a steward in your own environment, in your own human space? And so that kind of comes up with popular culture. Um, and these might be a little antiquated. I'm not sure because I started delving deeper into environmental stuff, and that changed my algorithm on my social media. And so now we're in too deep. So these might be a little older, popular cultural movements. But just, tell me. Um, but some of these reusable bags at stores, you will see those pretty much anywhere. There are movements to add charges for plastic bags in, certain neighborhoods, and some stores don't provide any bags whatsoever. So it's on you to provide your own bags for that. Some big bucket stores will do that. And so, and th those are to mitigate, the microplastics that end up in the vi environment, any plastic waste, as well as it recognizes that fossil fuels are finite, and we don't know how much virgin plastic we will have available to us. And of course, we do have bioplastics that are coming up, and some of those are biodegradable, and some of them are not biodegradable, and they will leave microplastics in the environment still. But microplastics are a big deal just because we're not really sure of the ramifications. And so the microplastics will be around forever is the argument, and they'll be eaten by the fish, and the fish will be eaten by the birds, and we'll eat the fish and the birds. And so then we'll be eating the plastics. And so how many plastics are we consuming, and how unhealthy is it? We don't know the longitudinal ramifications, and how big of a problem it's going to be, but it's better just to nix it, to stop it before it does become a health concern or something of that, sort. So reusable bags at stores. It's also practical to reuse those things and bring your own resources for that. So reusable cups and straws at coffee shops. I know there was a video that was on my social media of a straw being removed from a turtle's nose, a sea turtle, and it was just bloody, and it was such a long straw, and it just looked terrible. And so there's a movement for the reusable straws and reusable cups. I am guilty of this one. I have yet to do it, I think. And I love coffee shops, so shame on me, but that is a movement worth noting, worth recognizing. Beach cleanups and trash in our waterways. That's another one that shows up on my social media a lot, and part of that maybe is like fear of missing out, FOMO, wanting to go to the beach and, oh, sorry, I'm getting the weather report in the background. I don't know if you can hear that, but But beach cleanups, trash in the waterways, and some of that is actually legal. But you'll hear about the garbage patch, and you'll see this garbage piled up in third world countries and just around. And so it's a big thing to pick that up. And but dumping trash technically in the ocean is legal. I think it's either 300 feet out or 100 feet out. Same with macerated fecal matter. And that's something you can talk about too in your local communities, how you feel about that and like legislation in that regard. Um, but that's not, I am a Minnesotan, and so right now I'm land bound. We've got our lakes here, and so, but I think the same applies for like Lake Superior. I think that they can allow that to um, be dumped. And so that's something, if you want to talk about, I think that would be worth a conversation anyway. But um, it is a big deal. We want to make sure that our water is as clean as we can make it for our water ecosystems, our wildlife there, and we want to have as much water as we have available for humans. I know I read something about like 80% of water going towards agriculture, our potable water going towards agriculture. And the same article also mentioned that humans were overusing water by like 160%, and we are using it faster than we are replenishing it and things like that. So watching your water footprint is a big deal. But that's kind of a, a different topic from the beach cleanups. And but thrifting and buying using secondhand items. I know that there was a pop cultural song about thrift shopping a while back too. I'd say that was probably like 10 years ago now, but you will see the thrift shops around. And it was, I think, kind of a hipster culture, thing that it was a movement. So and it is helpful because you keep things out of the waste stream for longer. You give things second life, and it's just about appreciating what we already have available instead of needing to use like the virgin materials, completely brand new things. And there is merit in those also, but the idea is to help get rid of the extra stuff. And we have donation um, programs in place where we can donate things to third world countries. But then there is also a counter argument of trying to um, do less of that so they can build their own infrastructure and be able to take care of their own resources and their own resource management instead of dealing with our secondhand items. So, and there are a lot of variables there. So, um, but those are some personal things. These ones are more environmental, and I don't know how much of this is mainstream. Again, like I said, my algorithm got environmental friendly mucho grande. So a lot of it is green movement, green movement, green movement, and um, so, which I love because I love that stuff. But but um but alternative lawns and leaving the leaves was a big one this last fall. Leave the leaves for the beneficial insects, the beneficial bugs to be able to overwinter in the lawns so that way they can reawaken and do the pollinating and do the biodegrading of the things to leave the nitrogen in the soil, which replenishes the soil. And alternative lawns are like the flowers and like small short weeds, or even you can do. There are a whole bunch of different ones, but to kind of alleviate the need to mow the lawn, which saves time, money, gasoline, the fossil fuels again. And they can also take care of the pollinators and other wildlife, like bunnies and squirrels. So that way they have food sources in our local ecosystems as well as in those wildlands. So, urban and vertical gardening, for those who maybe don't have lawns, are in apartment buildings, are in um, our hot spots, our hot zones. being able to vertical garden allows for more space in a for food and vegetable growth, say in an urban environment, but it doesn't have to be. But they've got like those that you can buy for at home, where you can have your own fruits and vegetables on this like vertical shelf, and there's hydroponics and things like that, and it goes deeper from there. But urban gardening too, there are movements for community gardens that are in urban environments. The vertical gardens come into play. We've got rooftop gardens, and so it kind of branches out from there, and there are a lot of options, but it's very cool to experiment with that. Potted plants. A lot of people will do like potted, um, fresh, like cilantro or basil or parsley. They'll have those available for in the kitchen. That's a nice thing. A salsa garden, things like that, that you can just create and have. So, water, carbon, electric footprints. We already kind of brushed on the water footprint, carbon, and electric. We've got solar panels coming to the fore. I know Minnesota, I feel like, is very progressive in the um, renewable resource sphere. We've got a lot of solar panels coming up, and a lot of wind turbines as well. So it's really cool to be a part of that. Uh, and also, we aren't on the coast, and so we don't have access to those oil fields that are out, in the middle of the ocean, or things like that. Um, but carbon footprint, talking about fossil fuels and our emissions in the environment, in the atmosphere, um, like using our cars. And so we've got the electric vehicle movement. I heard that like California wanted to have all electric vehicles by 2035. And of course, our current political atmosphere is not necessarily engaged in that conversation. I think they actually said no to that, and there was that whole drama with Elon Musk and Trump and the electric car situation. And you can see that in the big beautiful bill as well, with the different taxes on electric and all that stuff. So our current politics. Woohoo. And what was it? It was drill baby drill. And I wasn't going to bring politics up because that's okay. That's okay. Zero waste lifestyle is another one. That is it kind of is to reduce waste, perhaps in what you purchase, reusing things, recycling things. So lots of different things you can do on a personal level, to be a steward. It all comes down to mindfulness and accountability and educating yourself. I know, like I said, I did serve a year working with environmental initiatives, and it was amazing how much I learned. I got to help with seed collection. I got to help with planting trees. I got to help with um, invasive species treatments, and it was so great. And so I'm actually still educating myself. That's one of the biggest things I did before that. I was picking up garbage in my neighborhood, and I was, trying to do a zero waste lifestyle. So I was buying in bulk, and I was trying to reduce my waste streams from the food I was purchasing, and anything else I was purchasing. So that was kind of my big environmental stewardship thing. I also started gardening, and I was looking into community gardening as well. Um, but I'm still trying to educate myself, and I'm learning more about domestic plants after doing some of the wildland stuff. So it's a never-ending process to educate yourself, to learn more, to engage in that as a conversation. And so I definitely would recommend it to anyone who is interested. It does start at home and in the home. Um, any questions? I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, for participating. I think that it was great to have this discussion, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.